All right, Tia, Emma. Yes, Tia came through. Emma? Oh, no, come back, Tia. Great, great. And Emma?
Sorry, I'm having minor trouble with my video. There we go.
All right, you're good.
Clicked off again.
All right, we are in business now. Great, great, great. Well, welcome, ladies. It is our pleasure to have you today. So let me set us up and then we're going to get right into this conversation. Welcome, everyone. My name is Alicia Wilson, Vice President for Economic Development for Johns Hopkins University and Health System, and I welcome you to this session of Entrepreneurship Matters. Entrepreneurship Matters is a conversation that we have with local up-and-coming and established entrepreneurs. What we know is that successful entrepreneurs and businesses are not built in a day. It takes undiluted passion, multiple failures, a lot of grit, and a long-term commitment to make it happen. Today, we are talking with two of Baltimore's finest. They are amazing entrepreneurs in the book space. This is our first conversation about books. So we are so thrilled to have Tia Hamilton. Tia is the owner of Urban Reads Bookstore, which is a hub for Black authors, including talented writers behind bars. She opened Urban Reads late last year on Greenmount Avenue, and that location has quickly become an atmosphere where residents and others can feel safe, explore, vibe with their children, and connect with books. Tia is a fellow Mervo Mustang, class of 96.
Yes.
She has stated that it's been her goal every day since she's opened to elevate the voices of those who have served prison time and those still in lockup. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, Tia, as we go through what inspired you to start your story. But really feel blessed to have you on Greenmount Avenue and with Urban Reads.
Appreciate it, thanks.
But not least is Emma Snyder. Emma is the owner of the Ivy Bookstore and Bird in Hand Coffee and Books. She formerly served as the executive director of Penn and Faulkner Foundation, where she was focused on expanding the foundation's Writers in School program. She's also from Baltimore, graduate of Catonsville High School. What's your logo? Is that a bird?
Comet. Yeah. Fiery comet.
Okay. That's good. And has taught in Beijing and holds a master's in fine art and creative writing. Both of them are extremely talented women that we are so blessed to have on here today. And everyone should know these are two working women. So if Tia has employees coming behind her, that's because she's working. If Emma has somebody coming behind her, that's because she's working. So don't get thrown off by the fact that these are working women in institutions in Baltimore. But let's get right into it. Let me ask you, let's start with Tia. Tia, what inspired you to be an entrepreneur, and especially in the book space? Because this is not, this is our 12th week. We've not repeated, but you are one of the few bookstore owners I've ever met in my life. So can you tell us about what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
You got time?
Got time.
Okay, so in 2003, I was real heavy in the drug game. I was in the streets real heavy. And then one of my arrests, the bail bonds, my mother asked the bail bonds to give me a job. She told the bail bonds, they like, listen, my daughter a hustler, she know how to get it. Can you give her a job? I guess anything to get me out of the drug game and out of the streets. And he said I could do one better. And he showed me how to be a bail agent. Now, he took off because I got the streets. I'm a drug dealer in the streets, so I already know everyone. So it took off like crazy. So 2003 was my first business. And it instantly became something for me. And then I grew from there. Then I ended up going to jail. I came home and I got right back into it. And then I was discovered on Facebook. For a sports show because I'm real big into sports. I can battle anybody in the sports world. So once I got discovered on Facebook for that sports show, that took off like crazy. And I ended up starting my own radio station off of that. WMSKonlineradio.com, and that became my second business. And there I ended up meeting so many people, and it opened up so many doors that I ended up owning a magazine. I still do, which is this State versus Us magazine, which highlights the corruption that goes on in the prison system, the police department, the government, wrongful convictions, and success stories of formerly incarcerated individuals like myself. So I started the magazine, and I wanted it to be more than just in the prison. So I started reaching out to local stores. They wouldn't accept my magazine in the store. So I said, well, you know what? Let me just open up my own store. So I went to my Montgomery Mall. They denied me 3 days before I was supposed to move in and told me I was too political. I said, well, I'll deal with them later, but let me deal with this now because this is a need. Then I, in this space that I'm in, I want to say like 4 months later, and now we're here, Urban Reed's bookstore, and I'm co-owning my mom because my mom is a Baltimore City public school teacher for 29 years. So stop trying to look for a job after the job. Go into this with me, and let's do this together, and you can build your own. So I made my mother a business owner at the age of 62 for the first time. And keep in mind, she was not feeling entrepreneurship. She looked at it as if I wasn't paying taxes. I didn't have a real job. I said, miss, I pay taxes. Like, what do you mean? So I said, you may have more money than me, but I'm happy. You go to work every day, you work for other people, you're miserable, and you come home with that energy. And I'm not with that energy. So I made her business owner, and she's ready to retire full blast now. And so she's having fun, and we just having fun right here in my old hood of Mervo, because I know this area, and I love this area, and I love Waverly, and I love the things that we know that can happen in this community, and I know what this community needs. And I sought out the Greenmount area because I know what Greenmount needed, and they needed a bookstore.
You know what? There's so much that you can unpack from what you just said. Lessons for our young people that are watching, lessons for those who have a journey that isn't the journey of others. And how you, I don't know if you realize, you talked through all of these points of I pivoted and stayed focused. Excellent. So inspiring. Emma, how did you, and you have a different story too of how you came to be an owner of the Ivy. You talk about
I would love to, I would love to share that story. Although I also want to say, I hadn't realized Tia had said she had a magazine. So up until March, when COVID shut it down, I've run a book club for the last couple of years at the federal jail downtown. And one of the guys brought in a copy one time because he'd been featured in your magazine. And I remember being like, I've never heard of this mag. Anyway, that's like an amazing moment. But also, just to compliment Tia, it meant so much to him to be featured in print. Yeah. And I think that that's probably a thing we'll talk about more. But I think just like getting voices out there and just the sense of affirmation that can come with writing and expression and the empowerment there, but also just the physicality of print and of text and of books is something that is it's just important for everyone in the world, I think, to feel that a connection to that and of their story and of like the variety of stories that are out there. So well done. And
that's a full circle moment. That's our full circle.
Yeah, that really, I was like, wait,
10 minutes. We got a full circle moment.
That was actually one of my questions for you. It's gonna be like, tell me about the magazine. So yeah, that also I think brings back to my story, which is also a little bit is responding, I think, in moments. But my first job out of college was teaching elementary school down in a small town in Louisiana, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up in Beijing teaching English to scientists, and had these teaching experiences, and a lot of it was just about, I was curious about places and about, I'd grown up in Baltimore and was interested in what it would be like to live other places and then to write about it. And I'd always been an avid reader. And so after that, I went to study writing and to try my hand at writing. And then kind of found a job listing one day for a job that converged those things at the Penn Faulkner Foundation, running a program that took writers into schools to meet with students. And so we would set up these meetings and donate class sets of books and build curriculum around it so that kids in DC schools and then in Baltimore schools would have access to meeting writers and help kind of enliven what it meant to read and what it meant to write and what it meant to express yourself in that way. And I fell in love with that job, and it was this transformative moment. But I never thought about entrepreneurship, and I hadn't really thought about what I did as having like the qualities necessary to be an entrepreneur. But I think I'd been responsive to opportunities. So a friend's like, "Hey, you should go to Beijing," and I was like, "Sure." And I bought a plane ticket and like China. And I look back now and I see that as like having a connection to what I ended up doing. So I own the Ivy Bookshop and Bird in Hand Coffee and Books because in my old job, we began Writers in Schools program in Baltimore City schools and ended up buying our books through the Ivy Bookshop. And as I'm running that program, I got to know the former owners of the store. And I'd also begun to think I wanted to move back to Baltimore. I wanted to move home after a lot of years living other places. And I was living in DC and I liked it, but I didn't love it. And again, to echo what Tia said, I didn't feel as much of a sense of connection to place and to my community and to like the essential stories. And I felt a little dislocated. And I felt like if I came home to Baltimore, there would be sort of more of a cohesive to that. And so I wanted to move home and do something that was at the convergence of books and community. And I mentioned this to the owners of the Ivy, and it was really this instantaneous thing. He just said, "Well, you should buy the bookstore. We're getting ready to sell it." And I think I looked at him and I said, "That is insane. Like, I can't buy a bookstore." And he said, "Well, probably we can figure out a way." And I feel like that's like the essential story of entrepreneurship is like, probably we can figure out a way, you know? And
just do it.
Okay. Y'all are finding ways out of no way. And
exactly.
So that's my question. That's the question, the next question. And somebody is watching and they're looking at you, Tia, and they're looking at you, Emma, and they're saying, how did you do it? Like, I understand the big dream, because both of you have to be big dreamers. And every entrepreneur we had on here are dreamers. That's what I feel like all of you have in common. But take us through, how did you start the business? I'll start with Tia again. How did you start the Urban Reads bookstore? Like from concept, idea in your head to now sitting in the office. And I know somebody gonna come behind you in a minute because that's a busy office.
They over here talking to me from the side. I'm like,
I know they are. Tell them you're on Facebook Live. Okay, so how did you take it from idea to where you are now?
Well, I always been one of those just do now, think later type people. And that's how I was successful when I was on the streets. I took that same mentality in everything I do with my entrepreneur. See, some people learn from what they got out of the streets. Some people actually pay attention to how that coexists with the legal life. So when I go to prisons, I tell them, listen, same grind, different product. So I just took the grind and added it to the different product that I had. So I knew that I wanted to, because my dominant turned me down, I said, well, you know what? I like bringing my own table and chairs to situations and sit down. That's what I'm going to do with this. And that's what I did. I said, I'm not only going to sell my own magazine in my store, but I'm going to put local authors on. I'm going to put Black authors on. I'm going to put prison authors on to give them a space to make some money, because they still got children, grandchildren, mothers, wives that they want to assist with. They still men at the end of the day that they want to be able to feel useful. So I'm giving them a space to feel useful. They can sell their books and they have their craft in here and I'm promoting them. And what I did was I said, with all the books that's in here, I'm going to create a catalog. And I'm going to take those same books and I'm going to put it in the prison so their peers could support their work. So I have a catalog we finalizing tonight that has about 260 books on it that is going to go into the prison, and they're going to make some money. They're going to absolutely make money because I can ship to prisons and things like that. So I knew that once I got the space and I said, ooh, put book signings in here and I can do financial literacy events. We already did a youth entrepreneur financial literacy. We have an adult entrepreneur financial literacy workshop coming. We did the first aid CPR. I want to do spoken word for children 18 and under. And we want to announce starting October, we're going to, it's a fly here. Starting October, we're going to provide a $30 gift card to a child for being great in that month. So it's going to take the teachers to nominate them and submit us a short paragraph, one paragraph on why you nominate this baby for Urban Reach Bookstore Student of the Month. And we're going to provide them a $30 gift card where they could come in here and buy and get at least 2-3 books out of that $30 to read. So that's the literacy program campaign that we're going to kick off for the whole school year. So it was a no-brainer for us to be here. So to provide the community. We have an internet cafe. We have computers in here for the community. If someone at home, they don't have a computer, but they want to job and they don't have no way to do that, they could come in here and fill that out. They can do a resume. They don't have the computer, but they can do the job application on their phone, but they don't have a resume, a way to do a resume. They could come here and do that. If you need copies or facts, they could do that. I just got certified to be a notary, sworn in. So now we provide a notary. None of that is on Greenmount.
Yeah.
So I'm literally giving everything that our community needs under one roof, and that's the goal.
Excellent. A couple of things you said. One, nothing in your life has been wasted. Powerful lesson. Powerful
Absolutely.
lesson for folks. Nothing is wasted. The second thing you talk about is you are, and this is most people who are entrepreneurs, do now, think later. So that's the fearless part of you. One, I don't think you realize you said this, but you said that you realize that you have to bring your own table and your chair to the table.
That's it.
To the sphere. You talked about putting your craft, you actually saw a marketplace that others haven't seen, which is within prisons and within these writers, these brilliant writers that can make a market and do and change their craft. The 260 books, the places, and then I think what's compounded it is the placemaking you're making. And you know, people talk about placemaking. You've made your place,
Right.
your place that people can find. So I think that's huge. And then the number of different services. Excellent.
Thank you.
Job on that. Emma, can you talk about talk in that same vein? How did you, and you talked about buying the business. Can you take us through how did you go about those steps?
Yeah, I would love to. And also that part of the placemaking that you focus on there, and that what Tia was talking about, I think that responsiveness to local life and to just seeing and intuiting and then sort of analyzing what it is people authentically need is an incredibly important piece of being like a successful entrepreneur, but also just like a humane entrepreneur, like someone who's responding to their community as a community.
Like that, humane entrepreneur.
I like it too. She better make us get quotables. Emma, you got quotables. She ain't giving us quotables. You won't give us quotables. We're taking them.
And I think it's not a surprise to me then that you became a bookshop owner, because one of the things that I love about being a bookstore owner, and that I've always, loved about books generally, is that they're this like repository of everything human beings have ever done, and they're about everything, and therefore bookstores can invite in anything, and that's what you're describing, and that's what I think is so exciting to me and motivating about being the owner of a bookstore is that they're community spaces, and you fill them with this product that can interest anyone, that can be about anything, and therefore that can touch on anything the community needs. And it feels really like this really healthy cycle that happens.
Yes.
And I think that for me, that's also an essential part of the answer to the question you're asking, Alicia, is like, I think I was incredibly motivated by the idea of owning a bookstore. I don't know, it wouldn't have been applied to something else necessarily, but that felt really important to me. Of, oh my God, I want to move home, and someone's offering me the opportunity to own an independent bookstore in my hometown. Like, that's incredible. Like, how do I go? And so then that became the essential question: is how do I, if I don't have the table and chairs to bring, how do I learn to construct them? You know, how do I take like one stool I got and figure out how that stool can become a chair, and the chair can, and somebody will give me a table because I've got a chair. And that's part of, I think, my story of entrepreneurship has been realizing that sort of the world is full of pieces, and putting them together is part of the project. And so, yeah, I sat at, I looked at myself, and I had a job and sort of a home. And it was like, well, if I deconstruct this life, what are the pieces of it that I can bring to the table to be able to purchase a business that I don't have? It's not like I look in my bank account and say, well, I can buy that business. And so part of it was learning how to do that, how to figure out how to, finance a business, and how to believe also in its future. And I think that that's one fundamental part of entrepreneurship that I did not entirely understand at the beginning, was if you believe in the vision that you're building, and you can convey that, and you can convey enthusiasm and excitement about that, other people buy into that. And that's what you need to succeed, is belief, and is a sense. And that connects back to what Tia was talking about, which is if you look around and you say, what do people need, and what are they going to respond to really well? Not just in a transactional way, but in a really authentic way, right? My community needs places to go work on computers, and needs financial literacy, and needs all these things. You become a space that people care about, and then that space is impartially sustained by that care. And that I think the economic part, the health, it's not, you have to maintain a focus on the sustainability and viability of the business. But I think if you keep a focus on the human scale, that's a lot of what I've learned from my experiences in small business that I've fallen in love with about it. Is a lot of times from a distance, I thought of business as this big overarching kind of thing that happened out somewhere and affected my, the lives of people I knew.
Yeah.
Sometimes in heart-wrenching ways. And the wonderful thing about small business, I think, and entrepreneurship, is you suddenly realize there are a lot of systems, and if you put them together in a way that's responsive to people and happening on a scale where you can see like this, then that, then it becomes very empowering. And that's a really exciting thing, because it also breeds that. It's like taking back agency and saying, we don't have to be reliant on forces beyond our control, but ideally we can rebuild those forces within our local communities in a way that allows us to say, hey, I want a bookstore on Greenmount, so I'm going to make a bookstore happen. I want financial literacy in my community, so I'm going to make sure there are financial literacy sessions. And then you get to see that impact. And that's the extraordinary thing, I think.
Both of you are phenomenal. You talked about responsiveness to local life and humane entrepreneurship. That's going to get like a little, one of those little screens or something. You talked about building it to be independent, constructing it, and thinking through how to sustain it. And I thought this was a really important point. Beautiful words. That the space is sustained by the care that you give to the community and that it gives to you.
Snaps.
Tia, wasn't that poetry?
Snaps.
What book we gonna put it in? What book are we gonna put it in? Let me ask you this, and I want to get to addressing the challenges. And let me say this before we keep going. So I always forget this. There are people listening on the phone. There are also people who are on Facebook. You're also tuning in Zoom. If you can type your questions in the chat or text your questions to 22333. So that's 2 2s and 3 3s, and type JHUWL in the message. I'll receive your questions for Tia and Emma, and I'll make sure to ask them during our question and answer portion. A question that I know we're going to receive is challenges, right? As I said, entrepreneurship takes undiluted passion, a lot of grit, multiple failures. Can you talk us through the challenges in your industry and also as business owners? Because someone out there is facing the same challenges and they are on the brink of giving in or giving up. So Tia, I want to start with you. You talk about the challenges and blend in there, if you could, how you have overcome them or how you plan to overcome them. And if there is something, because I'm gonna get to this question, it's always my Oprah, Bill Gates. So don't tell me what them people can do, because I'm gonna ask that question in just a minute. Because they're watching. Bill Gates and Oprah always watch. Robert Smith, all the billionaires watch. Tyler Perry. I know he just gave named a billion. They all watch, but let's talk through your challenges and how you're confronting them. Tia?
Well, let's start with I got a praying grandmother.
Oh, yes. Woo.
Let's start with that.
Woo.
Because if it wasn't for Sister Foster, baby, we might not be having this conversation. This lady has brought me through. So shout out to Sister Foster. But I make this thing look easy. People don't see me sweat. They don't see me crack. They don't see me break down. They don't see me cry. Because people see that as a sign of failure and weakness. I don't overthink. When you think long, you think wrong. I go with a plan and I execute. So whatever I gotta go through to get to that plan and to get to that goal, I'm gonna get it. I am happy to say that there is not a goal that I have made that I have not got. So you have to put your goals in place. You have to set realistic goals depending on what you're doing. So I have literally said, this is what we're gonna do here, and we got this much time to do it. 9 times out of 10, no one knows my goal but me. Because I don't see nobody sideline hating.
That's right.
Bro, it's sad, but it's real. I don't need nobody throwing darts and daggers in my plan. So my plan is my plan. I just put everybody around the plan and let's work. Let's get it.
Right.
Now I can be a little, you know what? It's gonna get done. But we are all here for the same purpose, our community and building empires and making everybody feel acceptable. So I have never written a business plan. So when I tell people that, they be like, how you do this with no business plan? I only got one loan in my life, and shout out to the BDC.
Who gave it to you? Shout them out again. Who did it?
BDC.
BDC?
Development. Mm-hmm. So, and that was a COVID relief loan. So there wasn't nothing before. So everything I've done from bail bonds until now came out of my own pockets.
Yeah.
People, you ask them, especially with people with the money, can you help? Some people you ask, some people you don't, but some close people you be like, okay. But that's rare. I don't do that because I don't like asking nobody for anything. I like going out here and executing. Let me see how I can do it on my own before I go out here and asking and trying to rob Peter to pay Paul and Bill and Tom and Rose. And I don't want to do that. But some people need to do that. And entrepreneurship, this is not for the weak. This is for the thick skin. This is for the roughneck. This is for the person that's ready to get down and dirty and gritty and wear the same clothes for 2 weeks type person. That's the person for entrepreneurship. You got to be willing to sacrifice. When I started this magazine, I sacrificed the new truck that I needed to make sure that the first print happened. When I started opening this bookstore, I sacrificed another new car and some other things and a whole bunch of other things that I really wanted to do to make sure that this project happened. And it's nothing but blessings. And I can't honestly tell you where all of it came from. I just know that I pray every day and I believe in the Most High. And I got a praying grandmother and we pray together and that's my baby. And together with my mom and my family. And I always had great support. So I've never been the one to not have support with my child, not being able to go where I need to go and make sure that my son is taken care of while I'm gone. So I've been able to align myself with great people like myself. That means I kept bridges. That means I kept great relationships. That means people love me. And I was able to go out here and say, this is what I'm going to do. God, if you see fit for me for this to happen, make it happen. Let's bust it open and let's make some change. And that's what I've been able to do. And every day, that's my goal. So I said, Mom, how can we involve children? Because there's no school. So I've been waiting for the day where the school, the MTA stop, because the MTA stops in front of my store with all the little children coming off, acting crazy and wanting to be excited and going next door to the convenience store to come in here so we can show them some books. Because my goal was to have Black children come in this store and see other Black authors with children on them pages so they could correlate themselves with that person. And it has been happening and it's amazing. And it just touched, like right now I'm getting chills. It touched my soul when I'm able to see families come here and a little baby say, oh, Daddy, that look like me. Oh my God, Dad, that look like you too. And For real. If you hold the book up next to them, it really does look like them. So I've done my job. Now it's more work to do because that goal has been hit.
Yeah.
More work to do. When I'm able to bring my friends, you know, the conversation different depending on who you hang with. I hang with people who believe in things that I believe in. I hang with people who move like me and act like me and think like me. I can't go and hang with Roro and he want to stay outside on the corner and I'm up here building a whole empire. We don't have the same thing in common. So my goal is to get Roro out of that situation and make them one of me. But I can't make you do it. You have to want it. So when I sit with people that I'm friends with, we do the same thing. We build businesses. We help others. We community related. We are activists for the prison system. We out here making real change. So you can't go and ask advice from your homegirl who never owned a business, not interested in owning a business, never did anything but go to work every day and come home and chill. Advice on how to be an entrepreneur, she doesn't know. So you have to surround yourself with people in the same industry, in the same type of field, in the same mindsetting that you have in order to move forth. I have mad mentors. You have to get mentors. I got like 4 or 5. It's okay. It's okay because I have mentors with people who have already done it. So they're able to give me great advice on how to move forward. Now, they could give me advice. What I do with that advice is on me.
Yeah.
Not 9 out of 10, I'm taking it because they've already done it. Why not?
Excellent job. I'm going to recap. You tried to just preach now. I know you trying to be Reverend.
Girl, I can shout it out now.
You know, when you talked about your grandmother, I almost saw you shout. And
yes.
I understand. I was like, she gonna shout, and then Facebook.
Do you want to know where I got that from?
Where you get it from?
My grandma and I saw angels. Because I'm the only person to take my grandmother to the doctor. So one day, leaving Mercy, as we walking up the ramp, going towards the elevator, 2 women just popped up in front of us. And my grandmother, she speaks to everybody. It doesn't even matter. And then she get to talking to them. And then next thing you know, we in a prayer circle. And I asked the lady, I said, well, is there any information or contact information? She said, no, we'll come when you need us. And then they got to praying, and in that prayer, and she said, because of this praying grandmother, this young lady gonna have everything she set her sights on. And I just broke down crying.
Ooh.
And then when they finished praying, my grandma was crying, I was crying, they was crying. And as we let each other's hands go, they disappeared. And I said, Dad, go on, Grandma. And that was the first and only time that we ever parked on the rooftop with the daylight. And when we went up there, the sun opened up. It was cloudy all day. The sun opened up and everything. I said, look at God.
Look at him. Yeah. Powerful testimony.
Yes.
Powerful. Emma, how about you? How what are the challenges for you, the industry, and what have you done to address them and overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly to start at the back, overcoming, I think so much of it has to do with relationships and with, as Tia was saying, kind of having collaborators or friends or just sort of peers or mentors who have that same sense of adaptability, flexibility, creativity, and a sense of motivation to just get things done, to do things in the world, and not necessarily to critique, but rather to sort of build and to say, kind of, what is it that I am motivated to do? I want to get, kids in looking at books that look like them with their parents and sort of seeing their faces on the cover. How do I get there? And then respond along the way. And so I often think of something my dad said to me kind of early in my time with the bookstores of saying, you solve today's problem today, and you solve tomorrow's problem tomorrow, and you solve the problem a month from now. And again, that connects to sort of what Tia was saying of, if you spend too much time worrying about the problem next month, it will drain your energy and it'll distract you and sort of overwhelm. And honestly, that's something that wasn't necessarily instinctual for me. And I kind of had to learn, like, I think I had a sense of, it turned out I was a lot more risk tolerant than I knew myself to be, and often that the world kind of tells you. And so I have sort of 2 challenges I'll identify. One was just when I decided it took me about 15 minutes to get from, that's crazy, I can't buy a bookstore, to like, oh my God, I need to buy this bookstore. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do in my life. I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. And how am I going to do it? And I had no idea. I mean, I was like, I worked for a nonprofit and had been a teacher. Like I didn't know anything about business or entrepreneurship. And so one of the things I did that sort of corresponds to what Tia's saying is I had bought a house, and I owned a house, and that had been a stretch for me. But I suddenly looked at it and I said, well, like, if I sell my house, like the house can help me get the bookstore. And a lot of people thought, well, that sounds crazy. Like you're imperiling yourself personally, right? The same with sort of retirement, some retirement money. And I was like, sure, but if I believe that this is the future I want, then I've got to do everything I can to get there. And there was risk involved, but the risk didn't feel like risk to me any longer. It just felt like getting to do something cool. And understanding that if it didn't work out, I could accept that reality. I could accept that end state. The worst version would be to not try for the thing that I wanted. And that, I think that clarity of coming up with some kind of like litmus test inside yourself, like, will I feel worse if I don't do this thing? If I know that I didn't try as hard as I possibly could to do this thing, or will I feel worse if the end state is it doesn't work out? And if you're going to feel worse because you didn't try, you're going to live with that lingering feeling, then I think that that's a really powerful motivator, and it helps you be okay with sort of whatever comes to pass. And so that led to what is easily been the single biggest challenge of my time in the last 3.5 years that I've been back in Baltimore and I've owned the ID, is that we had rented for for more than 18 years, a space in a shopping center. And I had always known theoretically that for a business to own its own property was transformative and would really, as I was saying before, if my intention is to sustain the store and make it viable into the future, because I think bookstores matter, which I do, then how one day I would love if we could own our own property. And then one morning at like 8 a.m., I get a text message from one of my best friends who I met in 3rd grade, and lives in Baltimore too, loves browsing real estate. And she just forwarded me this photo of a property that was for sale and said, this looks like it could make a nice bookstore. And it was 3 blocks down the street from our longtime location. And so I got in the car and I drove there and I walked onto the property and I just thought, yes, this is it. Nothing like this will ever materialize again. And it was this old 19th century house that had been converted into a meditation community church. So it had a sanctuary built on the back end. And I thought of that when Tia was talking, because like, to me, books are like spiritual, it's like, it's meaning, it's belief. It's this like fervent thing people do. And I just loved the idea of taking a sanctuary and converting it into a bookstore. And then it sits on almost 3 acres of gorgeous property. It's got gardens and a big lawn and a covered patio. And it was a meditation community church. So they cultivated a meditation pathway with these benches built throughout. And it was 3 blocks from our property on the same side of the same street. And I just thought, this is it. If I can make this happen, nothing else like this is ever going to come along again.
Hey, Emma, I had that same feeling, Emma. I had that same feeling when I got this. I said, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the place.
This is the place. And if you get that feeling, then it's like everything else is just how. The questions of how, right? There's got to be a way to do it because the world exists and people do things. So it's just a matter of figuring out what are the things you have to do. And
you two are phenomenal. And both of you said something, and it reminds me of a quote that I heard a brilliant speaker say last week, which is, the price of inaction is greater than the cost of a mistake. And so you both know that to not do is greater than the cost of if you fail.
Yeah.
You're not going to really fail. You're going to fail forward. It's just going to be, you're just going to pivot. I mean, I think both of you talked about, and I can't say enough, Tia, about your praying grandmother. Both of you talked about this, which I don't know if you realized it, about putting the right people around the plan and then making the plan. The company you keep being so important. You both talked about the type of people that are in this business, right? Skin, those who get the listing for the house that's 3 blocks down and isn't like, that's crazy. It's like, it's crazy if I don't take this leap. You You're talking about it's crazy if I don't start this, if I don't do for others. And really also being realistic and humble in the sense of solving today's problems today. That's humility, right? Knowing that you can't solve tomorrow's problems today.
Right.
Or next week or next month. Huge nuggets and gems you're giving. So let me ask you this, and I know people are asking their questions, so don't worry, I'm going to get to all the questions that have been posed, but what is the long-term vision for your businesses? Right? You feels like you been taking you're an entrepreneurial journey, not at your destination, because this is not your destination. This is Emma seems bigger. You got benches. You have 3
Benches.
acres of land. What's the vision for where you're going and your business, and how do you want this to evolve? Tia, why don't I start with you?
I'm franchising. So right now
Franchising.
we looking for the second location now over West Baltimore. I won't say where. All the Urban Read bookstores will be in the same type of community as Greenmouth. If I'm in Maine, it's gonna be in the same type of community because we don't have bookstores in our community.
That's right.
It's important to put bookstores where we are because there aren't any.
Yeah.
So the next location we're currently looking for right now is in West Baltimore, and store number 4, I'm taking back home to Brooklyn, New York. Yes. So it's going to be, we're going to populate these stores all over the goal. I'm not going to tell you, but we're going to
Don't tell me to go because you told me, because I
Yeah.
understand. I
We're going to populate
understand
these things.
that everybody isn't worthy of knowing. So we don't
Go.
go loud. So everybody doesn't need to know. You can whisper in my ear later, but
All
it's
right.
important to people to know the vision, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
where you are is not where you're going to be.
Mm-mm.
Important that people recognize that huge vision, amazing, and so people invest in the we're going to get to that point. We're going to get to that point in this.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we will not leave that off. Emma, what's the vision for the Ivy?
Yeah, so the vision is very much tied to the property I was mentioning. We are in the final week of renovations. So it's taken a little over a year, but we will reopen in, we think, 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks at the sort of first week of October in our new space, which is at 5928 Falls Road. And the vision for the space really takes off from there because we imagine it as kind of a cultural center anchored by a thriving bookstore. So the first level is jam-packed with books, kind of operational bookstore, but it'll include a second floor workshop room, a little apartment that would be used potentially for writers or artist residency, and then these incredible grounds that will allow for all kinds of outdoor spaces, uses and outdoor events. And so I've talked to a bunch of different businesses and nonprofits about doing, kid-centered activities out there, especially that kind of converge with nature. But really, I mean, there's sort of endless possibility that jumps off from creating a space like that, and then connects to the sort of the second store we have, which is Bird in Hand in Charles Village, which is a book cafe.
I've gone to Bird in Hand many times.
Yeah, wonderful. I love that.
I sit at that third table in the middle.
All right.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a wonder. I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's a really wonderful space. And again, is that sort of social space, community space, lined with books, and therefore that sort of has ideas at its heart. And so we're really focused at the moment on reopening and relaunching the Ivy, but especially given that suddenly we have all this outdoor space during the pandemic, thinking about cool ways that we can do a lot of collaborations with different people, potentially with you, Tia, and doing sort of pop-ups, but book fairs and different activities just to get people in a space that's comfortable, where you can have books and you can have talks and you can have ideas, especially for the next year or so. So that's a lot of what we're thinking about at the moment, and just adapting to the surreal time we're all living through, and looking for ways that there can still be kind of human connection during that.
You know what's really interesting about both of you? You talked about the community and your vision for your growth. And I think coming back to your point, Emma, you'll be sustained by care. I give you this point. I have a mentor who told me when I first started my law practice, he said, if you do right by your people,
Period.
you will never be at
Yes.
work.
Yep.
You'll never want for anything. You do right by your people, and both of you demonstrate from just your words that you're trying to do right by your people, and so you will never want. Let me ask you this, because it's a good question, because I know they're watching. Oprah, we have Robert Smith, Tyler Perry, Jeff Bezos. I try to give you a whole lot of options of people watching. And they want to know, how can I support Tia and Emma? You also have people like me. I don't have that kind of money. Praying grandmama. So maybe one day, Tia, that we're gonna claim it. But they want to know how to help you all. How can I help other businesses like yours who want to thrive, who want to care for community and want to make money? You are gonna make money. And they be supportive and make sure we're helping businesses like yours and entrepreneurs to not just survive, because survival is not the goal, to thrive, and thereby the community thrive. Tia, what would you say? You're watching. It's your time. It's the giving you the opportunity.
The first thing, especially when it comes to people who are investing and want to help, stop trying to get a piece of the pie and leave it at that. Stop trying to get 10% and 5% and 20 and 50% of the business, because I'm going to say no. It needs to stay in my family at 100%, period. Genuinely sincere about seeing growth of Urban Breeze Bookstore or Ivy, just be genuine and let's do a contract that's based off of money and not percentages of business. That's the main thing, because there are a few people who, well, I can give you 20,000, but I want 10% of the company. Absolutely not, sir. Your 20,000 is not worth it to me. I will never relinquish anything, because I'm building generational wealth. Generational wealth means I need to keep this at 100% in the family, and that's where it's going to stay, just like your families do. So don't come over here with your money and your checkbook and try to buy me. I can't be bought. If you're generally concerned about what the community needs and what we need to focus on, then let's go ahead and do this business without trying to take my company. So that's what we need to, that's where it starts. Because I'm not one of them chumps that's going to sit here like, oh my God, you giving me 100,000? Let's work. I'm going to decline your 100,000, because that's the great thing about me. I done seen more than that in a second. So that doesn't excite me. What excites me is genuine people who are ready to do the work in a genuine way. So if you want to support me in the right way. Share my posts. Tell people we're here. We have CBD. We have CMOS. All of that stuff is great for the health, for the health and wealth of older people and the disabled and sickly people. Support me by coming in here, booking an event. Don't ask for discounts. We independent and we small, baby. We can't afford discounts. Because when you go to Yang Ming at the Chinese joint, she want her 6 cents. We want ours too. So don't disrespect us and say, oh, can I get a friend hookup? I don't hang with them type friends. So they had never asked me that. But I've seen it with other friends that I have that have businesses where they homeboys and homegirls want to come in and try to get discounts. We didn't build this off of a discount. So no, you can't have a discount. We need everything that we can get coming in here. You understand? So it's important that people understand our stance. You can't go to Macy's and ask that. If you won't get a discount unless they give you a coupon. Respect us the same way. Just because we're a small business and you think it doesn't, people don't understand how business works. So that's why we have things like that. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have friends like that, you have to check them at the gate. Don't ask me for no discount. Stop blasting us live on social media because we didn't satisfy you, because we can't please everyone. So because we didn't have what you needed or you didn't like how you got it, you want to go to social media and blast us for the world. So that hinders us from having other customers. If you got a problem, email that person who owned the establishment. Let's hash this out like adults. You know what I'm saying? Running the social media and doing all that doesn't help small business and entrepreneurs. It doesn't. And also, entrepreneurs also need to understand that get the proper help, train it if you have to. If you don't know about that industry, better Google should be your best friend. We didn't have it growing up, but everybody got it now. So go out and research and do things. So if you want to support us, just support us with the genuine love. Come in and spend your money. Come in and help us. If you go to Barnes and Nobles, you never were going to ask them for a discount. Don't come in Urban Reads and Ivy and do the same. Respect us with the same respect you giving that corporation who has million stores all over at International. Understand that we need you in communities, and it's nothing about us without us. We have to understand that. So the moment we come into an establishment, respect it like you would respect if somebody was walking in your home.
Excellent, excellent. Emma, what would you say? We have Oprah. And we have some questions coming in. We got a lot of questions coming in, so I want to make sure I get to you all.
I would say in the most fundamental way, to me, I think it's to buy books from your local independent bookstores, to not expect discounts or discounting structures that are going to make it harder for them to survive. But there are some very practical versions of this. So it's not just walking in and buying a book, but it's if you work for an office and the office needs to buy books for a purpose, or the school that your child goes to, or that where someone you know volunteers, if they're purchasing books. And that one of the things, I think this is a very particular thing that's important for the Ivy or for Urban Reads, but is this idea of a lot of times sort of people will make an individual purchase, but when you think about aggregated or institutional level purchasing generally, it diverts to exactly what Tia's talking about. It's large institutions work with large institutions. And if that's where the wealth of the world is tied up, it just goes back and forth and it leaves out small businesses. And I think that one of the things that is really important generally in society, and that I've thought about so much during COVID, because I think it's really identified it in a way that can be very hopeful in the future if we take the lesson, is that when you feel that the small businesses in your community feel threatened, you feel it more and you feel that loss more than if CVS or other sort of large corporations. If the Chipotle in your neighborhood goes out of business, maybe like everybody loves Chipotle, but it's not going to feel the same as if the small locally owned coffee shop does. And one of the most empowering thing you can do is keep your dollars local and spend them at local businesses that are owned by people in your community and that have people who work in your community working there, and where those dollars stay in their community. Because like today's conversation, we really care. Like we wouldn't be doing this. And I think this is especially true of bookstores. There are, I think, fewer than 2,000 independent bookstores in the United States of America. This is not like a path to riches, but it is a path to extraordinary meaning. And it's a path to feeling deeply connected to your community. And it's a path towards that instinct of, I've got to do this. Like that's the people who work in and own independent bookstores feel that way. And it's just an amazing group of humans. But I think small business owners in general are that way. And so I think if we can help, if people who run offices and run businesses and have wealth think, how do I make choices when I'm purchasing things in aggregate? And it may be a little bit slower and it may be a little more expensive, but it's because the dollars are actually going to creating communities that I want to be where I want to walk down the street. I want Greenmount to have a bookstore. And so I'm going to go in and not get a discounted book. And I think that dynamic and that sense of like a value assertion every time you spend $1 is something that's really important to sort of embed in our community. So
that's what's up.
I gotta give you a couple of things. People are saying they loving on y'all, so they're giving y'all so much love on social and in poll everywhere. People are texting in. One person said, I'm going to quote them. So today's conversation provided the very paths to building a business. I'm encouraged and excited for both of you and plan to drop by soon. Whoever you are, and I know you have talked about dropping by soon, just tell them you saw them on Entrepreneurship Matters. We don't do this we do this. I'll tell you, you want to know why we do this, Tia and Emma? Probably don't know why we do this.
I know exactly why, to encourage and help other people in growth.
that and let me drop this on you, Tia. This concept came from a young person we have sit on our advisory committee at Hopkins. Camry Moses. I know she watches every week. And that brilliance is in our community.
Yeah.
She came up with this idea and said, what if we inspired people by just telling our own story?
Yeah.
Huge. So that was one thing I wanted to say. Emma, you want to say something? Okay.
Oh, I was going to say, and a compliment to you, Alicia, for listening to that and saying we should, and then doing it.
Absolutely.
You know, I feel like that's just that essential story is the community is just full of great ideas and it's full of good intention there is a lot out there that's to be harnessed and that you had the ability to create this platform is really important. Both for the person who made the suggestion and then for the people you get to invite on. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, our pleasure. Someone asked this, and both of you talked about kids. What do you think is the best way to help people, especially young people, develop a love for reading?
You have to introduce them to their liking.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just force what we want on the children. We have to learn our babies. And that's the first thing to do that is listening. People think because they children, we supposed to just shut them up all the time. No, they have a brain. They are little humans. You the big human. They little humans. They think, they feel, they do everything you do. They just need guidance. So if you guide them and listen to them, they'll tell you, and then that's it.
I cannot agree more emphatically with that. That's it. And the thing I would say, so I'd mentioned my first job out of college was teaching elementary school. And then I've taught in various ways throughout the years since and worked in schools a lot. But teaching elementary school is like magic. It was the hardest job I'll ever have. And it was magical. It's incredible. Because kids are the best. I taught third grade. And it was these 8 and 9-year-olds, and they were just full of curiosity and energy and enthusiasm. And it's exactly that. They've all got a million things they're passionately interested in. And one of the tensions was sometimes when we talk about learning to read and developing a love for reading, it's framed in a kind of transactional, like if you want to be successful 15 years from now, or a decade from now. And that may be true, but it's not motivating to an 8-year-old who's just really interested in lizards. What they want to do is read a book about lizards, and then they want to read 15 more books about lizards, and they want to know everything there ever was to know about lizards. And it's just that there's this like authentic engine of curiosity and sort of imagination in human beings. And in unfortunate ways, sometimes it gets like trained out of us. And that's actually one of the things among the many things I love about running a bookstore is it's like feeding that feeling back into adults too, that I think kids are where you look at it and it's like when they respond to a book, it is, they're going to read that book 12 times. They're going to like tell you that they're going to recite that book. And like, how do we get back to that? How do we have people wander through and not feel like there's something I'm supposed to read? And there's a book
That's right.
But there's something I want to read as a human being, and there's something happening inside me. And that is, I think those two things are really connected and they're just electric when you see it happen.
And you know what, Emma, what's funny is that they read all these books on lizards. Next thing you know, they're an entrepreneur opening up a shop. Yeah. Oh, lizards live in the store and they running all the iguanas all over.
It's that's the energy that goes into entrepreneurship. It's the energy doing things in the world.
Support that energy. And if we don't support that energy and what they stop saying, oh, what you want to be when you grow up, and don't. And if they say, I want to be a person who handles animals, and you not introduce them to that, then you are saying, forget what you want to be when you grow up. Yeah. I want you to be a lawyer. I want you to be a doctor. But that's not what I said. So the moment adults take over what the child wants to do in that form, it becomes a problem. And now you're creating mental illness. Girl, I could talk about this forever, girl.
I know. You know,
listen to these babies,
Emma and Tia, y'all got me in trouble. We overtime because y'all have me all hyped in this Entrepreneurship Matters. Let me say this. First of all, thank you for who you are in this world.
Thank you.
And thank you for standing in our community and being these champions. And it has been an honor to have you on this platform and
thank you.
introduce you to whomever is watching from Oprah to little Alicia in East and West and South and all those.
Alicia, a big deal. What you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Now, I'm trying, but no,
Yes.
it's an honor. Let me make sure people know how to get in contact with you. Tia, can you give us your address? How can people follow you? How can they support you?
Can I answer that question about the prisons? Someone asked, can you elaborate more on the work you do?
No, I was about to get. That's my last. You take.
Oh, I don't want no
You
smoke.
take my
How you
job.
can reach me?
You're about to take my job.
I don't want no smoke, Alicia, because you're a big deal. So you can reach me at the magazine is States, V as in Victor, S as in Sam, U, S as in Sam, mag.com. You could go there and you can purchase the magazines. You can order for loved ones that are incarcerated, and we ship right directly to the prison. Or if you want an ad or you need a feature, email us at statevsusmag@gmail.com. The bookstore, Urban Reads Bookstore, is 3008 Greenmount Avenue in Baltimore on Greenmount and 30th. Come see us. It's the gold light right on the windows. You can't miss us. And you can go to our website. If you're watching somewhere and you want to order some books from us or anything that we have, everything is on site. And you can go to our Urban Reads with the S.com. And if you want questions or you're an author, a local author, or you know a prison author and you want your book in here, our Urban Reads at gmail.com.
Excellent, excellent. Emma, can you give us all the way, last question before we go off. Can you answer the question of how can people get in contact with you about the work you do in prisons and with incarcerated individuals and understanding the full scope of that? And if you can't get to that all, what I can say is we have another platform. I'm going to talk about that at the end. We have another platform where we can give you a whole 30 minutes to talk about your work in the community. So tell me about that, Tia.
Well, if you are concerned or you need to know laws or you need help or advice for how to go or what to do, or if there's a story to be told about wrongful convictions, or something's happening with your loved one that's incarcerated, just email me at statevsusmag at gmail.com. So that's state, V as in Victor, SUSMAG at gmail.com. I'm the only one that answers these emails, so you're going to get me directly.
Excellent, excellent job. We, again, thank you both so much. I'm going to shout out all of our partners, Johns Hopkins University, the health system, Hopkins Local, the Mayor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women-Owned Business, and the Warnock Foundation. Next week on Entrepreneurship Matters, it's all about accounting. So we're going to talk with Tony King of King and Associates and Shalina Cottrell of SCN Accounting and Tax Services. You don't want to miss this. Two accounting firms in our community you want to follow. And that is next Thursday at 1 o'clock.
And I'm looking for an accountant too.
All right, so you will tune in, right? You will tune in. Let me also say this. On Monday, you do not want to miss our new program, which is called Baltimore Boost. And it is being produced by an amazing intern that we have on our team. She's a senior at Spelman College, and she is talking to our social entrepreneurs in Baltimore. This is at Hopkins, use of our platform to tell the good stories of Baltimore from the perspective of the people of Baltimore. You don't want to miss this. We're going to do this twice a week. We're going to be talking about shifting and talking about social entrepreneurs. So again, please tune in on Monday and watch that. That'll be going off. Again, thank you all for coming, and we'll check you next week on Entrepreneurship Matters.
Thank you.